Hey guys, I'm Tom the Tech Chap, and it's amazing / a little bit frustrating that my laptop gaming buying guide from about 3 months ago is already out of date. For a few reasons. The big one is laptops actually like this, and also like this, because they come with the brand new NVIDIA RTX 3050 and 3050 Ti graphics cards, which are a pretty big deal. And also the fact that in the world of PC gaming, it is still all a bit frustrating because you just can't buy a proper, desktop card to save your life. Stock issues are, improving sometimes, but it's still really tricky. And if you want a next-gen graphics card like a 30 series, then your two options are a pre-built gaming PC or a gaming laptop. So here I am with a bunch of gaming laptops and also 10 of my top tips for buying the best one. A big thank you to NVIDIA for sponsoring this video, although as always, all opinions are my own. So at number one, definitely check out laptops with these shiny new RTX 3050 and 3050 Ti, as they're essentially the entry-level RTX 3000 series cards and a little bit cheaper and a little bit lower power than the 3060. So why is that a big deal? Well, a couple of reasons actually. The first one being that in sort of more mainstream laptops, if you will, non-gaming laptops like this, the new Dell XPS 15, we now get the RTX 3050 Ti. And that is a big upgrade from the previous GTX 1650, well, in terms of raw horsepower and CUDA cores and teraflops, but also because we get all the advantages that come with being an RTX card, so like DLSS, ray tracing, NVIDIA Broadcast, Reflex, and about a billion other things happening behind the scenes. So now in laptops like this, and also Acer's Swift X, where we have cards like the 3050, and we're getting proper gaming graphics cards in these thin and light ultrabook laptops. But then we've also got your more standard gaming laptop. This is the brand new MSI Katana GF66, I believe. We've got the 3050, we've got an i7 11800, 144Hz 1080p screen, really good all-rounder, and it costs a little bit under £1,000, so relatively affordable. Not significantly less than a 3060 variant, but a bit cheaper. So that's the other advantage of these new cards, is that we have more affordable gaming laptop options like this. And I think for most people, this is kind of all you need for a gaming laptop. Okay, number two, and it's 4 letters, and I've talked about it, I think, in every gaming video for the last couple of years, but it is, you probably guessed it, DLSS, Deep Learning Super Sampling, and it is magic. I love it. Yes, I know this is an NVIDIA sponsored video, but I would be saying this either way. And in games that support it, with the most recent, the 20 series, or ideally the 30 series graphics cards, because the performance is a bit better. So basically what happens is the game renders at a lower resolution, then it uses its AI smarts to then upscale it back up. So you don't really see any visual difference, but you get a big boost in FPS. Simply because it's just now less taxing on the GPU. And of course, you will see a bigger improvement at high resolutions, Quad HD 4K, and also while AMD, of course, do have their own Fidelity FX super resolution technology, which sort of competes with DLSS, it's nowhere near as widely supported, and the performance isn't quite as good. It kind of feels like it's a generation behind. So at least they have something. But for now, a real big selling point of a gaming laptop with an NVIDIA card, particularly the latest 3000 series. Ray tracing and all that other stuff is great as well, but for me at least, the one big selling point is having DLSS. And while not every game supports it, more and more are. We've got Doom Eternal, we've got Fortnite, Minecraft, Call of Duty, Rainbow Six Siege has had an update, and it's expected the upcoming Battlefield 2042 will have it as well, which will make a pretty big difference, I imagine. So make sure you turn on DLSS. Okay, number 3, and it's a 3-letter acronym this time, and it's TGP, Total Graphics Power, and this is a big one. Previously, in a simpler time, all we had were desktop graphics cards and Max-Q laptop graphics cards. We still have Max-Q, we're actually on the 3rd generation Max-Q now, although that's more of like an umbrella term for the sort of power, the technology they use, like Dynamic Boost 2.0 and Whisper Mode 2.0, a bunch more stuff. But TGP is more important to think about or look at than ever, because not every card is made equal. You'll have a 60 watt RTX 3060 and you'll have a 100 watt RTX 3060. And 3080s can go from, I think, like 75 up to 150 or so. So there's big variations in how much power these cards can have. So just because you see the Razer Blade 14 with RTX 3080 doesn't mean that's the one you should go for, which I'll come back to in a second actually. But what you can do if you already have your card, your laptop, sorry, is go into the NVIDIA control panel, system information, and it will tell you the TGP. But if you're watching this, chances are you're actually looking to buy a new gaming laptop, so make sure you check the manufacturer's website. Or if it's not there, or at least not obvious, read reviews, because the issue arises when manufacturers then don't make it obvious when you're buying it what card you're getting. Because the last thing you want to do is buy a laptop with a 3080 that's actually outperformed by a higher TGP 3070 in a different laptop. Let's talk about these, the screens, because maybe after the specs, it's probably the next most important thing to think about when buying a gaming laptop, but there are big differences between them. So for example, if we take the new Dell XPS 15 with that snazzy new 3050, so you're thinking, oh, this is a great all-round gaming laptop. Well, kind of, but we don't have a high refresh screen. It's a lovely screen, but it's 60 Hertz, which is not great for gaming. So really, if you are going to go out and buy a proper gaming laptop, then you'll want at least a 144 Hertz 1080p screen, which is what we have on here, and it's pretty standard, although we are now seeing more and more Quad HD 165Hz screens, which are actually higher quality, and also on this guy, we actually have a 16:10 aspect, so a slightly taller aspect ratio, and also a Quad HD 120Hz screen, which actually isn't that common at all. But beyond just the resolution and the refresh rate, one other thing to consider, which isn't that well known, is that these basic Full HD 144Hz panels tend to have slower response times and also lower color accuracy. They're not quite as good as, say, a 1080p 240 or 300Hz or a Quad HD 165. But I think for most people, 1080p 144Hz is the perfect combination of like value for money and smoothness and quality. But for me, I do think that sweet spot is Quad HD 165. Of course, you do need the performance to push it. If you're not getting 165 FPS in your games at Quad HD, then you're not really maxing it out. So without getting too waffling, the tip is basically Full HD 144 is fine, but if you can, try and pay a little bit more for a higher quality screen, because not only will you either get a higher res or a high refresh, but you'll probably get better response times and better color accuracy as well. Tip number 5, and when it comes to gaming laptops, bigger and faster isn't always better. It's actually more important to get the right balance. Please work. And it really is a balance between performance, portability, battery life, price, and whether you actually like the look of the thing. But I guess that's all a bit vague, it's don't spend too much and get the right one. Easier said than done. A more concrete thing to avoid is a gaming laptop that maybe has the specs that shouldn't really be in it, or at least don't offer good value for money. And a really good example is the new Razer Blade 14, which I reviewed the other day. Fantastic laptop, but I would not recommend paying the $800 for the 3080 over the 3070, because you're getting single-digit performance increases. And this is due to the TGP of the cards they use, and also thermal limitations of such a small, thin and light system. So the takeaway is on smaller or maybe thin and light laptops, and taking the TGP into account, sometimes less is more, at least in terms of value for money. Tip number 6, and with all this power on tap from a gaming laptop, you don't have to use it just for gaming. A lot of people buy these kind of laptops for the performance to use in their productivity tasks and workloads. A lot of people I know use gaming laptops for their video editing or their rendering, 3D work, because you're getting pretty beefy performance in a still mainstream consumer priced device. They're not going for like a super high-end pro workstation. And it is a good option having a gaming laptop double as a workstation, not least because we get some of the AI improvements with the tensor cores in these RTX cards, so the likes of auto reframe in Premiere Pro or speed warp in DaVinci Resolve. These are all boosted significantly with these cards. And also, if you jump into the GeForce Experience, you can actually switch between game-ready drivers and studio drivers, which have been tested and optimized for a much broader range of creative and productivity apps. However, you may get a couple of weird looks if you do bring this into your next boardroom meeting because they think you've just finished a level on Siege and now you're giving a presentation. So first of all, it may be worth choosing something with a higher resolution 1440p screen that's also more color accurate, and also a more professional, less gamery look. I think Razer's gaming laptops look relatively understated, despite all that RGB, but we are seeing more options now, like Acer's Triton SE series. But it's this guy that I'm actually really excited about. It's the brand new Z16 from MSI. I will actually be reviewing this as well in a few days, so make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for that. But it is such an interesting crossover between a gaming laptop and a kind of productivity work laptop, if you will, because we've got a 3060 in here, we've got a 120 Hz refresh screen, we've got a snazzy RGB keyboard, all that good stuff. But at the same time, we have a really color accurate screen. It's Quad HD as well. It's also a touchscreen, and also a 16:10 aspect ratio, which you don't see very often at all on gaming laptops, and I really appreciate. And we also have NVIDIA's studio drivers pre-installed if you want to use them. So we're in this lovely new world of creator laptops, which are essentially gaming laptops toned down a little bit and a little bit more optimized for creative or productivity tasks. So it's this kind of thing that could actually be my desktop replacement, as opposed to maybe the XPS 15, which is still very good, but 60 Hz puts me off a little bit, and also this is a bit more powerful. We've got a 3060 in here, whereas that tops out with a 50 Ti. So we've talked a lot about graphics cards, which I guess makes sense because we're talking about gaming laptops, but there are a few things happening behind the scenes with these new latest RTX 3000 series of cards that make a big difference, even if you don't really see it. For example, we've got Dynamic Boost 2.0, which previously just borrowed power from the CPU and gave it to the GPU, but now it actually goes both ways, and NVIDIA says can help boost performance by up to 16%. There's also support for rebar, or the resizable bar, which lets games use more of the GPU's frame buffer when needed. Again, lots of technical stuff behind the scenes. And on some laptops, we also get the new Whisper Mode 2.0. Not all laptops support this, you'll have to check, but it uses AI to intelligently monitor your FPS, your temperature, your system fans, and then adjust it all to match the acoustic profile you want. But then we have the front of house tech, your DLSS, which we talked about, and also ray tracing, which of course adds those sort of next-gen lighting and reflection effects. And really it works best when paired with DLSS to balance the performance hit. And it can look incredible in games like Cyberpunk, Metro Exodus Enhanced, and Minecraft. And then beyond that, 30 series cards also give you access to NVIDIA's Reflex, which lowers system latency in compatible games. So basically improved responsiveness and better precision thanks to a reduced time between making an input, like clicking your mouse, and then seeing the action on screen. And then completely outside of gaming, we've got NVIDIA's Broadcast, which actually uses AI to dynamically remove the background from your streams or your calls. So it can improve your video, it can reduce the noise in the background, and it just overall gives you a better video streaming experience. Okay, I promise, no more graphics cards, that is it. But let's move on to tip number 8, we're almost there, and let's talk about Windows 11. Which you can either download the beta for now or wait until it maybe releases to the public in probably late September. But it does have a few benefits for gamers, like auto HDR, because currently and previously HDR on PC is just a bit of a nightmare, and DirectX 12 Ultimate support. But I think more exciting is direct storage, which can actually dramatically reduce load times if you have a NVMe SSD, as it already does on the Xbox Series X and S. Games will need to be updated to take advantage of it though, but over time, this could give us dramatically better load times and reduce texture pop-in in games. Moving on to tip number 9, and this is a nice and quick one. Don't overpay for RAM and storage if you can upgrade them later yourself. This helps bring down the initial price, spreads the cost out a little bit, and also frees up some budget to spec the GPU and CPU and the screen that you want. So for example, going back to this guy, the GF66, we get a pretty good spec for about £980. You get an i7, 144Hz screen, 3050 Ti, but you do only get 8 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, which is okay. I think it's a decent entry-level spec, but you can upgrade both that RAM and the storage. So if you are on a tighter budget and you can't really stretch to a higher spec model now, get that good GPU and that good screen, but then upgrade the rest later. And you'll probably get a lot more for your money if you're happy to buy it and upgrade it yourself. And finally, tip number 10, overclock your graphics card. It is essentially free performance again. Most of you will be absolutely fine. I'll leave a couple of really good guides to overclocking in the description below because this could be a whole video by itself. But download MSI Afterburner, do little increases of the GPU clock boost and also the memory clock, and then just go from there and run some stress tests to make sure it's stable. And that can be applied to new laptops or older ones. Just be a little bit careful about it. And that is it. I will leave links to every laptop I've talked about here in the description below if you want to check them out. And if you have any other tips for buying a gaming laptop or making one better, share it in the comments below. I'd love to read it, and I know it would help out some others as well. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time right here on the Tech Chat.